I'm actually for a few days I've been thinking about doing a podcast, or at least
I have never
recording.
done, but we are actually planning to do so. I work with like GSA, Genetic Society of America. So
Mhm.
they have subcommittees, and I am co-chair for one of their subcommittee, which is career development. So as a
Okay.
part of that, and they have multimedia team and others. So we are planning next year to do podcast for. Um, we are interviewing new faculty, basically. Who have joined new faculty in the US and Europe and trying to see how the application process was and do a podcast on all those things. So I think in terms of podcast, that will be my first experience to do it with them. But otherwise, I haven't done it.
I think it's more like a casual talk, the
Yeah.
way I prefer. And the way people are getting interested, it's like when you're commuting to work, sometimes you overhear people talking. So it's something like this. You put on a headphone and then you're listening to a podcast. You feel like you are perhaps within that conversation in your mind, or you could be someone who is just sitting next to somebody and
Yeah.
trying
Listening.
to hear things. So
Yeah.
very casual, but even if these are very casual, you still can say interesting things. And I feel like people have a knack for it. And there are so many gibberish is being said. So why not spell out something, some meaningful thing?
Yeah. 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 No, you're right. Also, like, I think we live in the times when a lot of the reading as a habit is gone. It's mostly audio and visual. Mostly, like a lot of people are commuting and then they have audiobooks or podcasts that they're listening to all the time. Or you are doing something, some chore, and you are listening to a podcast. So it's very like convenient. You can do it at the side of even like audiobooks, right?
Yeah.
People are these days like everyone is listening to audiobooks. So yeah, podcast. I feel you're right because I haven't listened personally to many podcasts, but this is like lack on my. I don't usually listen to anything much, but you are
Do you
right.
go for a walk? I mean,
I
people
do.
do not listen to podcasts just by listening,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they would do it whether when they're doing something else, like working
yeah,
out or going for a walk or
yeah,
doing
yeah,
some mundane stuff.
yeah, 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 yeah. I sometimes listen to music or some like stand. Yeah, I listen to stand-up comedy. Some good ones while I'm in the kitchen
Yeah.
sometimes. So yeah, similar way. Yeah, can listen.
But at the same time, when you're making something, you also feel good, like
Yeah,
discussing something. And if that makes meaning, then it's wonderful.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
if you get to understand something through somebody else's perspective, that is also something.
Yeah, yeah,
I just want to, because I mentioned to you before, this is very casual. And very recently, I've been browsing and I came upon many like YouTubers from India and who are actually doing this kind of casual conversation, but
yeah,
on sometimes on serious topics.
yeah,
And if we look at most of the prominent podcaster, they're all right wing. I mean, that's the way it goes. And
yeah,
they are blatantly uh, showing they're inclined to certain direction. And so we need to have more something which everyone can relate to and more objective.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was
Uh,
just, I mean, what you're saying is just reminded me of something that we should do, and you will be an expert because this morning I was having conversation with my family in India.
mm,
My brother and sister-in-law they live in Hyderabad, and my parents live in Jaipur. And the whole conversation, it went for some time, was about pollution in India in different places and how it is affecting. And at some time my parents were like, yeah, we live in the like outskirts of city and it's fine here. And then my my sister-in-law was like, no, just measure the level of pollution you have. It's not about like in India, anywhere you live now, it's like really high, especially Delhi. And I think if you want to talk, that will be like really, really to the point topic. I think a lot of people are talking about it, but we don't know exactly how to even measure these things, what to think, what is the direction, what are the solutions, what are the steps at our own level, and stuff like that.
Um, so I think uh, when if we say something, this needs to be done, that has to be done in a tone like this, you are already distancing yourself from what is happening.
Mm,
So the best way to describe something is not exactly describing that thing, but the thing that are associated with it. If
mm,
you are trying to, let's say, if you read the Anna Frank's diary, uh, she's not mentioning about how the war is going, but we get to see a lot more out of it. Uh,
mm. Experiencing it.
so I think uh, when we talk about uh, like climate change or something irreversible loss,
Yeah,
what does it mean? So it can be you're losing some of your childhood memories for good, some places that you cherish, you can never ever go back.
yeah,
Even you became a millionaire, you have multiple cars, but
mm,
those things once they're gone, it's you cannot restore. It's irreversible. Some species when they go extinct, or some ecosystem. It's not one thing. There are multiple things connected together. Like what they're doing in Aravalli. That's ridiculous.
yeah, yeah.
So
That's
beyond
a huge
100
thing right now.
meters from the ground,
Yeah,
things are not protected. How evil and how irresponsible it is.
yeah,
So
yeah,
if because they're all connected, this is a connected ecosystem. So if you chop off the root, how the plant or the vine can survive? You see that it's clinging on to something, but you just chop off the root, so eventually it would die.
yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so I think there are like people when I went to talk to people about this, they would always think it as if they're looking at Discovery or Nat Geo documentary. When we listen or watch a documentary, we have a different mindset when
Mm,
rather than when we just watch a film. Something that we more process, you know, academically or just as an information, and
yeah,
to other we have more emotions involved. And all the climate discussion, I strongly feel it lacks emotions because
yeah.
that is something, it's a very um, critical point, don't you think?
Yeah. No, you're right. Also, this is something that on a daily life, as we are getting into our lives and things as they are modified from like as childhood, what we saw, the living is very different now than as we were kids, right? But we don't necessarily relate that to the pollution, which is what you were saying. The point is everything is related, and this is an emotional angle which we, unless you sit and think about it, actually you are not realizing it in everyday life because you're just busy doing this and that. Once in a while you will think, but then you won't necessarily correlate. Like when you say sometimes I think, and we talk about this, that my nephew is 5 years old and he's a COVID kid, let's say. He was born in COVID time, right? We see some changes already like this in his nature, and the things that his surrounding, how he's growing is very different. Like sometimes when I talk to him, like this is so different from how I was growing up. And it's unfortunate because I feel we were fortunate that our summer vacations were in places like Still Village, and we could gather as family, we could do certain things, we heard stories we had these swings on the trees that my grandfather will put up, and we'll have, then we have big trees and fruits, fresh fruits from those trees and everything. But in today's time, even in village, we don't have much. Like, there is barely any like means of occupation, and whatever our family is remaining in the village, they are not able to actually make up and sustain a good life, so they are also moving out and doing jobs. So next generation, probably like in my family, next to next generation probably will have nothing in the village. And you know.
I mean, if you see, like, when you talk to somebody younger than you often talk about your primes.
Yeah.
So there's a famous Pink Floyd song. It goes, "Memory of a man in his old age are the deeds of a man in his prime."
Nice. True.
So, everyone tries to tell stories about their childhood.
Yeah.
And if you look all the novels, all the childhood storybooks that you used to admire and used to love to read,
Yeah.
and if you read them, you would see there are always descriptions of nature, how it was. Maybe they're into some adventure in a dense forest or some rough terrain. The thing
Yeah.
is that all those writers, they could write about those things because they have some kind of experience.
Yes,
Imagine
absolutely.
what's going to happen to the kids like Zen, Beta, Gamma, whatever you call it. So they're starting at a point when the writers, the contemporary writers, or if it is just purely content, maybe generated by AI or induced by human, generated by AI, however you call it.
Mm.
Um, but it would lack personal experience. I don't know how it would transmit, or there are some nonverbal ways to communicate, but there is some way to transmit just your true experience.
Yeah.
Um, but the point is, what those storybooks would be around if it has to be contemporary. There won't be big forests or wild animals. There can be lanes and
With buildings. Yeah.
yeah, lost in maze
Vehicles.
or something like that.
Yeah.
So all those Enid Blyton, or you call it, um, I mean, all those famous storybooks.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if you see actually stories, storybooks and stories, if you just get rid of the very old ones that are like people are still reading, and because these the storybooks as for kids, let's say, also had some values that were ingrained in those stories, right? It was life experiences made in a very simpler story form sometimes, and had some values to it, had some learnings to it. I think, to your point, when I think about it, it will be very hard to say in coming generation how it's gonna change. It's already changing. If nowadays you will see that, I think stories are a lot going or molding towards this online version of a lot of things, let's say, more than the natural version. And
Even I sometimes I feel sorry for the filmmakers. They would have to travel to other countries just to shoot an Indian film, and
yeah.
maybe there are some tiny suburbs in Goa and some other places they can shoot. It's not filthy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There are
Or the
some trees poking
northeastern, I
here and
think.
there.
Yeah.
They would never show any scene of Delhi. Maybe some iconic places, highly photoshopped or
Yeah, I mean that's
synthetically
the point,
clean.
you mentioned like Photoshop and these things. You can, like, even if you don't have, you will make these sets, and it's more than natural shooting. It's gonna be just, a lot of transformation of whatever site you have, maybe. Which is already happening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Like, more we have contents are easily generatable contents by any means,
Yeah.
more we would get masked out from the reality. Even all the media, they want to show things that are pretty. They are
Yeah.
not gonna show things that are not pretty. I'm talking about the mainstream media.
Yeah.
So, uh, I mean, we would sometimes perhaps we would start to feel that is what the movie life is, forgetting that used to be reality.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you take a old movie, even from like a childhood movie in an Indian cinema, let's say, and then you take a movie from now, you can see a very drastic differences in many things, how it is executed and how. Yeah, I think I was seeing some videos, I think few days back, and there was one, I don't know what the term is, like a short clip somewhere, which was like, so basically the whole idea or the main question of that video was why the Bollywood doesn't make movies as in 90s or before that 80s. It's like why Bollywood doesn't make songs as in 80s and 90s. And coming back to your point, like in terms of songs and lyrics, there was so much more content to life experience and nature and all that, that those songs are still very valuable. And I don't know, it has way more emotion and depth. And I'm not saying that nowadays what songs and things are coming out don't have depth. Some songs are good and this, but yeah, it's like the generation who is writing have experienced very different things, haven't they really experienced that kind of thing, so can't really portray it in the words when you have not experienced that. It's not going to happen. um
There's something that is intrinsic to nature, like you would I mean, everything together. When you walk into nature, you smell different.
yeah,
Your skin feels different. The moisture level is different. So much different sounds. Uh,
yeah.
all
Yeah,
those things has been within us over like thousands and thousands years of evolution. So it
yeah,
has some kind of triggers within you, emotional triggers, of course.
yeah,
And,
yeah. No,
and
in the West, I don't know if you have. So I am in Colorado right now, right? So in the West, like this is December, and the temperature from past 4 or 5 days has been in 60 and 70s in Fahrenheit. This is very and like this is so unusual, and we are like maybe winter is getting way more delayed. Maybe we'll have more snow in this in January, February, or March. But this is like Christmas used to be a white Christmas.
yeah, yeah,
It's like
even
it's not
here
gonna
also.
be. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not gonna be a white Christmas anymore. Like it's a very bright sunlight Christmas. So
yeah,
it's very unusual.
yeah. And sure, I think like people eventually would get used to it. Like
Yeah.
how long back do you actually remember? There are some memories we do not we are not very linear when like accumulating memories. There are some memory and some part of our life uh, that often gets stored or often resurface that is what triggers are there in a
Yeah.
surrounding,
Mhm.
but they're never linear. And we do not talk about much what happened like 4 or 5 years back. Rather, we would talk about when you're at school and when you're like at the in your teens, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So emotions and nature are very much connected, and we need to appreciate it.
Yeah. No, I think so. When you're talking about podcast, what I can say is you should. I mean, I'm happy to do in some way, but I think one of these topics that is coming exactly to my mind that everybody's gonna connect is what you're saying, that um, not really saying that we are doing this, but actually connect the emotional part to the nature, how it is changing, and just talk about those things honestly.
Yeah.
And that will be a good conversation, a very, as you said, it's a casual conversation, but that will actually make everyone think like we are doing right now, like what all is actually changing we are not even realizing, and how this is all connected, and how this is very much connected to emotions. um yeah.
So when any government uh, makes certain rules, as a government, they perhaps already thought about different scenarios, and I think this whatever happening in the world, it's already. kind of perceived what is going to happen in near future, but the only thing is that every like people in power, they know they have their lifetime over certain years, and over those years nothing terrible is going to happen, and that is probably driving them the way things are.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, it's about like again in today's conversation, when talking to my family, they're mentioning one point which I don't know how much it is true or not, but to a certain extent, it has some validity. Is like the people in power with the money are creating their own surrounding, which, like, for example, you have, let's talk about air purifier, let's say, right? You can have air purifiers and all to whatever extent it is working, and it is working, and you can have a lot of those in your neighborhood. And then if you measure the level of pollution in your surrounding, as rich you are, you can make that, sub surrounding which is more purified, a little more purified than outside. And then still you are also going out at certain point, and certain point you are facing all those things. But these people, when they are living, they can, you can make a living condition around yourself, if you're richer, a little better than everyone else. And that is the kind of stuff is also we are seeing in India, honestly. Is a lot of people, based on how rich you are, you can make those at least internal surrounding, or surrounding yourself to a certain extent, which is more, better livable.
Like better suburb, leafy suburb are
Exactly.
always for the rich, always.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's like, it's not that they don't have realization, but people in power do have realization, but they have power and money to make a better suburb for themselves. And then forget about everyone else, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
So, we keep it short. I'm
yeah.
just stop recording now.